Thank you very much. I'm IEC Secretary General Kim Kyung. Due to the coronavirus, the date of IEC, the Foundation Festival, has been delayed. But we are not able to present many events that we prepared. But despite all these serious difficulties, with your help, we are finally hosting the IEC Foundation Charity Festival here today. Now, I think technological civilization in this world is progressing without knowing the end. It's definitely a great human victory. But the blessing is seriously threatening us. Especially many vicious commercial games are taking our future generation to a dark place that paralyzes their spirit, their reason, and paralyzes their bodies. All of you here, except me, are great readers who have devoted yourself to leading our world to a bright place. Now, if you join forces with IEC, not in a dark place, our future generation can live in a bright world and healthy world. I think it's our mission and our responsibility that can no longer be postponed. But many vicious game companies and some leaders of their countries are hesitant, even interrupting. Why? Because the important thing is not human, but money. There is no future generation to them. The only thing that matters, important to them, is only money. Honorable Yunus, Dr. Yunus, and honorable great leaders and our members, if you join us, I'm sure this distorted world will advance to just word and right word and happy word, especially for our future generations. I'm sorry, I've been so heated from the start. Let's start with today's event. Okay, let's enjoy the performance of Korean traditional music by talented young people. Let me introduce Irang. This team is composed of the fourth grade from Ihwa Women's University's Gugak department. Gugak is a traditional music department. Hey, let's take a look together. Come in. Please give a big round of applause to the Iran team for creating a great performance. Thank you very much. Hello, thank you. Our members participate through the Zoom. Thank you very much, Dr. Yunus. Okay. Let me introduce the people next who made this festival possible. First of all, I'd like to introduce the CEO, Jo Jung-rae of the CPBS. He helped us produce and broadcast today's event. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next, I'll introduce the Dongseong High School principal, Jo Young-kwan. I'll introduce the principal to your next stage in document. Thank you very much, principal. All right. Okay, lastly, I'd like to thank you for helping us with press release and the promotion of this event. Let me introduce the CEO of SNS, Journalist Federation Chairman, Kim Yong-do. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next. Our IEC has been signing of MOU with a wide range of expert groups that have the same goal. I'll introduce, in particular, we signed MOU with Dongseong High School, and we hold a various events go together in the future to lead the healthy and bright future for the younger generation. And I signed the MOU with Gwangwon University. Gwangwon University is the mecca of the good games and educational games. From now on, we will work with Gwangwon University and show various good games models through the esports. Okay, thank you. Next hour, this time, let's watch high school student play a game due to the coronavirus. I was going to this event live in front of you today. However, we had no choice but to rent a safe place. And last week held the event quietly and safely. However, the enthusiasm of students who participate was hotter than any other actual games. And through fierce competition, Dongseong High School student and high school student Uijeongbu area won final victory. Congratulations, the final victory team in the charity tournament. They will donate the proceeds from the charity event in the name of the winning team. Okay, let's watch the game. Originally, this game.
아 크로스 가자 크로스.
해결할 수 있는 게 없어.
형 제테스. 오.
뭐야?
너 뭐냐?
아 이거
나이스.
너무 아쉬운데. 파이팅 형. 할 수 있다.
야 전민석 패스 플레이 아니면 개인 플레이? 골라.
아 패스로 가자 패스로. 해봐. 사까미.
하는 입장에서는 반칙으로 끊을 수밖에 없었습니다.
지금 지금 몇 개가 나온 거야 지금. 지금.
근데
이거 완전 좋을 뻔했고. 나가.
자 일단 통과됐습니다.
나이스.
했죠. 이 슈팅 시도.
없어 아니. 아 그냥.
Okay, many students want to participate in this game. Pandemic, the collection, the banner, we cannot have this game in the small place.
지금. 우리 페이스야 지금.
And the next time, the great festival in front of you, I will show you. Okay, next. IC and Dongseong High School have an important project together for our event. That's esports competition that Dongseong High School students make a game for themselves. Through this project, the student who thought of the games as just a tool to enjoy themselves until now, through the process of creating various events and using games, the social lot of esports can be changed. They are able to have time to think about it seriously. The idea submitted by the number one team in the project was very ingenious. Students from all over the world are playing games on cultural heritage and historical site, representing their country's attractions. It's an idea for a game competition where you can naturally explore and study the place while playing games each other. Number one teams works. The second team, in addition to that, there are games that combining racing game, car racing game with the charity event. The third team idea of the writing of background music in a rhythm game and using it in music classes got a good evaluation. Okay, various game we can develop Okay, let's watch the docu. In Korea, I can esports planner. Show the documentary. Okay, next, I will introduce you games that user makers can make have been released several times in Korea. Through collaboration with the BTS, as you know, who has grown into a global musician, we are providing users with the function of creating their own games in the form of story making, using BTS members as a subject. The game can provide us with new possibilities for global cultural exchange. For example, anyone can easily make a game that introduces their cultures and history site. IEC will work with the game manufacturers to provide a platform where teenagers can easily create and enjoy these good games together. Lastly, I'll give you the more detailed description of upcoming downtown regeneration project in Gongju. Along with Gwangun University, IEC will develop tools to experience various historical and cultural heritage of Gongju with more realism and more fun, using AR and the VR technology, what is called the metaverse. We can use these tools. And in cooperation with the Gongju City to attract the esports competition and link them to smart tourism. We will actively work on enhancing the online-based tourism industry and creating an environment where various cultural experience activities can be used conveniently and easily through esports. It is possible. Everybody knows that the South Korea's esports infrastructure is the world's best. I'm sure you will be aware of the more than 10,000 esports-related talents are posted every year in 67 universities with the world's #1 internet access infrastructure and more than 13 esports only arena. In addition to this excellent infrastructure, South Korea, which has so many outstanding players, that it does not miss the top spot in various esports competition every year, is a country that everyone cannot help recognizing. Lastly, as IEC Secretary General, Honorable, I will tell you about IEC's vision and goals for this year. The IEC's vision for this year can be summarized in 3 ways. First is to foster healthy esports culture. Healthy esports culture. To reduce the negative society's perception of young people enjoy playing games. And second, we will play a role in promoting great indie games, independent games, and the good games to the world. We will show you. Lastly, we will actively work on creating an environment where teenagers can interact and hang out with each other on the world stage through esports with your help, with your support. That's all for my keynote remark. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Okay, next, many people sent a congratulatory message to celebrate this IEC founding anniversary today. Among them, let's hear 2 as a representative. First of all, Ambassador, let's hear the congratulatory message from Professor Yunus, the Nobel Peace Prize winner and the laureate crown of the Tokyo Olympics. Congratulations. Ambassador, can you introduce Dr. Yunus?
Professor Yunus, thank you so much spending your valuable time with us. And everybody in the world knows you. You are the founder of Grameen Bank, and you are the 2006 Nobel Peace Laureate. Also, Professor Yunus, you've been forebearer of social business. Now you're honored again at Tokyo Olympics as Olympic. So you're covering whole world, from social business to microcredit to sports. We are very pleased that you could spend a few minutes with us, blessing and congratulating what we are trying to do through esports. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. Dr. Yunus, Professor Yunus, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Would you turn? 안 들려요? Can't hear you. 왜 그렇죠? Right. Okay, great.
Okay, all right. Again, thank you very much for inviting me, and I was excited to listen to what the initial remarks. And this is the first time I'm getting introduced to esports world. I didn't realize that what a big world that is already. And what fascinates me is about the way it trickles the minds of the young people. It creates imagination in the young people, and they create their own imaginary world and so on. And they get glued to it, they get involved in it. They want to see the things they want to realize in their life and make them happen, and see the wishes. They want to translate their wishes into concrete things through esports. So that imagination plays a very important part for me. As I started my own work, is also an imagination, little imagination. The imagination is how to extend the banking services to the poor people, poor women particularly. Everybody says, no, banks cannot do that. I said, well, we'll try to do something. And that is the initiative. I created a bank called Grameen Bank, or a village bank. And the things that we did became known as microcredit. And I'm very happy that Korea has lots of microcredit programs in the country, and globally there are lots of microcredit programs. But today in esports, what I like the imagination is the young people, this young age group that you have, and these are the most creative people. And the creative people bringing imagination, and that's what you do from the esports side. So I will emphasize the imagination part, and then the imagination that you are doing now is about the bad guys and the good guys and play the game and so on. And I will try to bring a new dimension to it. This is what you may very well like to do that. The imagination about the real world, what kind of world they would like to create on the screen, on their esports. And in the world, there are lots of bad guys and the good guys. So you can take the example of, for example, global warming. There in the global warming, there are good guys and the bad guys. And you can create a game on the good guys and bad guys about destroying the world, how the good guys trying to protect the world, and see which one wins up in the end, and come out with interesting episodes and so on, so that the imagination can also be relevant in real life. And that's the most fascinating thing that you have. You have that power. You have a tremendous power. You have the youth, you have the imagination, and now you are translating them into sports that they love. They want to play. They want to be in command. And that's what the esports is all about. They want to be in command. They have in their fingertip what they want to do on the screen. They manipulate. They can do things in their own way. And that's what they would like to do in the real world too. So I would like to add this social piece in the esports world. And as I said, in the global warming, there's so many things to be done in the global warming. So how would you imagine a game where the bad guys and the good guys are playing and finally winning the game in their own way, how to make it smarter moves and so on and so forth. And similarly, wealth concentration. Wealth concentration is also a terrible menace for the whole world. And there are good guys and bad guys into that too. And how to design things, esports thing, into addressing that wealth concentration. Unemployment is another issue. How to make this unemployment overcome by smart ideas, by imaginations, by playing games. As one is looking for an employment, another is trying to see how the employment can be created. And you make a game out of it, and fascinating game. Once you open that up, there are so many ideas which can come. I try to sum them up by calling them 3 zeros. Zero net carbon emission. This is one issue that you can take in your world of esports. It's a global thing. Young people come up with many different ideas how to address the global warming issues and so on, in designing things in the way they can do that. And the second one is the elimination of concentration of the wealth, to eliminate the poverty. So how to eliminate the concentration of the wealth? That could be another fascinating game. And the last one is employment, third zero, zero unemployment. How to create a world with zero unemployment by initiating entrepreneurship in young people. So entrepreneurship can become a fundamental issue in the esports. How do you create entrepreneurship? Not just a traditional way of looking for job, but creating things for yourself. So these are the ideas, and we can get together, can see how we can play around with these ideas, bringing creative ideas into the esports world and make this world relevant to the real issues, and the young people become concerned, become involved in these issues, and you have a very, very powerful tool in your hand. So that tool should be used for changing the world in the right direction. Thank you very much for giving me these few minutes to talk to you. I hope we can work together in the future. We have something called Yunus Sports Hub. If you want to relate this, discuss this, we'd be very happy to work through Yunus Sports Hub. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yunus. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ambassador Dor, for inviting me.
Thank you, Professor Yunus. Next, we'll listen to congratulatory speech from CPBC CEO Cho Jong-nae. I'll introduce you. Okay.
Hello,
Father Simon Jo Jung-nae, as the president of CPBC, the Catholic Peace Broadcasting Corporation and newspapers, I would sincerely congratulate the founding of IEC. Esport is no longer just one of the recreational activities out in the left field and out in the periphery. Instead, it has become one of the mainstream human activities, especially for young people. Esports is one of the best ways to share culture and understand one another through healthy competitions and sometimes even working together across racial, socio-religious, and geographical boundaries. Hence, esports can contribute in concrete ways to world peace and justice as the players experience mutual respect as they communicate with one another. As President, on behalf of our entire members of CPBC, we would like to contribute to the vital mission of IEC through esports. And I hope for great success in this endeavor of IEC. Again, congratulations on the founding of IEC. God bless.
Thank you very much, Father Simon. Thank you very much. This the festival can be possible, especially the CPB's help. Give a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Okay, this time we listen to the opinions and sort of views related to esports. I'll introduce first Yoon Ji-hoon, a Ji-hoon Dongseong High School student, will present on behalf of the Korean high school student. Okay, here.
Hello, my name is Ji-hoon Yoon, and I'm a student at Dongseong Secondary School. It is an honor to speak in front of world leaders and IEC members all around the world. Today, there are many individuals who enjoy gaming and view gaming in a positive light. However, there are many others who hold a prejudiced view towards gaming, under the impression that all video games are addictive and violent. Thus, I would like to stand here and explain the benefits of gaming and likely change the perspective of those who despise video games. In turn, I hope people can gain a better understanding of gaming and possibly change the negative assumptions of video games as well. Firstly, to speak on gaming, it is important to highlight the impacts of gaming on the users, whether good or bad. There is a lot of controversy regarding the addictive and violent nature of video games. Many people assume that when kids and teenagers play video games, they often become vulnerable to the addictiveness of the games. It is hypothesized that when children play certain types of games, it results in a dissociation of reality and the gaming world, eventually leading to difficulty interacting with society. Additionally, the exposure of violence through certain video games promotes a bad reputation for gaming, along with sexism, harassment, and verbal abuse in gaming chats. Furthermore, games that require purchases for items and such are an alarming concern for gambling issues as well as fraud. On the other hand, there are many other positive sides for gaming. Most importantly, the development of IT helps gamers familiarize themselves with technology and benefit in choosing career paths for the future. And sometimes, When you want to clear your head from the complicated world for a while, you can relax your mind through a game. It can be a way to relieve stress. Moreover, you can build friendships with your friends while playing a game with several people. And you can not only develop a sense of cooperation through role sharing, as in other team sports, while playing a team game, but also create the group and feel a sense of belonging, and eventually improve your social skills. Furthermore, in the case of a simple brain game, it can help children's brain development in cognitive development, such as logical thinking, and in the case of a battle game or a music game, it can help improve coordination, reaction speed, and spatial perception. Ultimately, it is a useful tool that positively influences the users of the game. Overall, I hope people understand these benefits well and change any negative assumptions about gaming. And this is the end of my speech. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kim Ji-soo. I studied French literature in Paris 4, also known as Sorbonne University. Because of this pandemic situation, currently I'm staying in Korea, helping students communicate in English. First of all, I'm more than honored to be able to make a speech to all of you who have gathered here today. But frankly, esports or video games were not really my primary concern. However, as I could get a chance to help students learn in English, naturally, I've learned that their main interest is esports. So to approach my students, I'm trying to learn more about esports. As you all know, there are many different kinds of games in esports. Unfortunately, the reality is that certain genres, for example, games where the winner or loser depends on who kills the other more, or games with a lot of violent or revealing elements of female characters, are popular in young generation. Game developers may also be aware that these kinds of games make money. I think the vicious cycle of becoming more and more observed in the development of violent games is one of the factors that hindered the healthy development of the current esports market. What can you do to break this vicious cycle of the gaming industry? It'll be solved if we define all the faults as being in the youth who enjoy the game and just ban them from playing at all. I'm sure all of you here know that it's not the right solution. I think the role of the adult generation is more important than ever. Game developers are also profit-seeking companies, so it's clear that developing any type of game is their freedom and their right. However, game developers also should take responsibility for exercising their freedom and their rights, and think about whether their games are adversely affecting young generation. And if so, how to solve those problems and come up with the appropriate solution is their responsibility. It'll be the role of the adult generation to support game companies around the world to accept external objective and fair judgment and fulfill their social responsibilities for the social impact of their games, not from their internal perspectives. And the existence of overall and international organizations such as IEC is the midst of that will be very important. I'll support IEC's activities so that sound esports culture can be established quickly to young people around the world. Once again, I'd like to end my speech by congratulating IEC on its founding anniversary. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marius Papakostopoulos, and I'm honored to be speaking to you today. So first of all, I would like to congratulate the KEC for putting in this wonderful event. I'm thankful to them, and this is a great event. And I find the support that IEC and KEC that they're giving to young people truly amazing. Young people make up the majority of esports viewership and the players. So it's important that their opinions are also heard. As the youth ambassador of IEC, my goal is to ultimately create a forum of young people to participate in the development of IEC and the future of esports, to discuss their ideas and voice their opinions. I have already reached out and made initial connections with young people within the esports industry, and I would like to extend an open invitation to anyone who is interested in participating. The support that IEC has shown towards youth esports is very amazing, and I believe the IEC can play a big role in supporting the empowerment of other groups in a similar way. Esports is a new industry, and it lacks support systems for underrepresented and underprivileged groups. I strongly believe that IEC can be a pioneer in supporting these underprivileged and underrepresented groups within esports. For example, after attending different meetings with esports stakeholders to progress IEC, I have learned more about the lack of support that women get in esports. The female esports scene is quickly growing, however, they're not getting the proper assistance that they need. Another example is that in many places, people are not even connected to the internet. We've held several meetings with IDU to try to find a way to connect more people to the internet through esports. IDU, for those of you who don't know, is an international organization that aims to connect people to the internet, so we can use esports in that manner. Lastly, I would also like to point out that there is no representation or support in esports for people that have physical disabilities and cannot compete on the same level as other people. The inclusion of disabled people in esports is an important way of showing that esports is for everyone. These communities and groups of people are not getting the assistance that they need because of how young the esports industry is, and I believe the IEC can be a pioneer to support those groups. I believe that we can play an important role as an international organization in esports by providing support to these underrepresented and underprivileged groups within esports, the same way that we have already supported and are supporting youth esports through this event, for example. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mario. We will work with the young people, not underprivileged, for unprivileged young people. Thank you very much. Next, thank you for your ambassador. Let's listen to the presentation on the subject of education and esports, which is an important part of our IEC. Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank you, the two professors, for willingly participate in today's forum. First, we will listen to the presentation of Professor Kang Shin-chan of Gongju University. Okay. The presentation theme is Games as Educational Project. And next, Professor Jung Hyung-won, Gangwon University. The theme is Educational Element in Game. Okay, thank you very much. We'll listen to your presentation.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hyung-won Chan, and I am a graduate school professor at Gangwon University in Korea, currently working in the Department of Game Studies. First, I would like to sincerely congratulate the successful opening of the Committe Festival for the establishment of the IEC. I would also like to thank the IEC for promoting the development of the healthy gaming culture and inviting me to partake in the progress. Recently, the way in which games are consumed both domestically and internationally is transforming to spectating in addition to playing. the future of esports industry is expected to be bright. In fact, both domestic and international esports industries have grown significantly over the past 5 years. Particularly, there are also opinions of esports benefiting from social distancing as the result of the global pandemic of COVID-19 restricting people from watching other popular sports in person. Games are firmly established as a broadcast content in Korea lately. It appears that anyone can create video content, not just about esports, but also any games for entertainment. Despite the disagreements, I would like to talk about the positive effect of games as a mediatization of education. The common jargon is called edutainment, a compound word created by combining the words education and entertainment. Fortunately, many scholars predict that education and games will soon be converged into a single field. This imposes that education can be designed like games to be engaging and entertaining. Education must be incorporated since the developmental stage of game design and expand this platform into the esports. Art, history, and science can be gamified into a variety of genres such as macro and micro managing, incubating, competing, exploring to amplify learning effectiveness. The research on how games associate to learning ability will be started by educational technology expertise, but games as educational tool are being acknowledged for their potential. However, positive and negative views on games must be addressed first. According to the social learning theory, which provides the basis for criticism of games and popular culture, there is a tendency people imitate sexual and violent actors presented on media. In addition to the gambling and addictive nature of games, it intensifies the negativity. An example of this would be the perfect rate of the Virginia Tech shooting incident who immersed himself in gaming. Another perpetrator of the Columbine High School massacres in U.S. said that he was an first-person shooting game addict and that he learned violence from the games he played. Due to the incidents mentioned above, games have another bad reputation for encouraging violence and indiscriminate violence. That stress tension can be relieved and mental stability can be achieved through naturally invoking. But it is also true that the positive views of games, the mental provocation effect theory asserts the idea of human desires. Playing games with violence can help alleviate aggression and frustration. I think utilizing visual real-life games to treat deviants would forbid or using games as a means of treatment for children with learning or behavioral disorders, ADHD, are some of the examples of positive effects of games. In spite of the arguments from both sides, gaming is a fun activity. So people will continue on playing games. Therefore, I would like to talk about the positive aspects of game from here on. First, the game is a learning tool. Fantasy game genres emulates the real world. We live in a creative EXA generation. Nevertheless, the fantasy world can be realistic to generate an immersive experience for players. In the book, Series of Fun by Lev Koster called games a fundamental and effective learning tool to learn the pattern of everyday life. Games are very clear and concise representations of the complexity of the real world in which our brains need to meet with certain information. So we can define games as images of human experience, so that we can learn the patterns of the world through practice. In other words, games allow you to practice patterns and permutations that the most traditional learning tools don't have. Second, the fun of flow that games provide when asked why people play games. Most people are looking for the answer in the emotional and social interaction. When asked to gamers, what is the fun of playing games? Many gamers say immersion. It's about finding the fun in flow, doing challenging activities requiring ability and being rewarded for the activities. After experiencing such flow, gamers say fun. But even gamers who have not experienced flow say fun. So fun and flow are not the same. However, when referring to flow in general, it is also related to the implementation of trained skills not learning. The essence of fun is to learn in pressure-free environment and to get the pleasure of flow past the stage of fun. The reason why they like games is to get pleasure of flow. The automaton and games, it is generally said that the human mind and behavior are made up of two areas, the automaton part and the subconscious. We can acknowledge that most of the daily human behavior is automated, and the automated behavior is function of the cerebellum. As such, humans acquire new information. The pieces of information is stored in his cerebellum. There is the learning curve when a player experiencing a new game for the first time, and learning the tools of the game to accomplish challenges. When past the curve, players begin to strategize new play styles in effort to achieve high scores or rewards. When players achieve the automaton phenomenon by going past the learning curve, they quickly lose the motivation to learn, focusing on in-game mundane tasks does not provide the stimuli, and therefore choosing the positive effect on human brain. Players should continue striving for new stimuli by seeking new strategies and play styles in the game to extend the learning curve. Extend the learning curve can provoke brain activity and delay aging of the brain. First, what does the game tell us? Most games introduce a concept of power struggle to encourage a desire to triumph. What's important in the competition of power struggles is to analyze time, tactics, strategies against opponents' weaknesses. These games can teach vital social skills for everyday life. Also, games like massive open world role-playing games teach social skills, such as teamwork and community spirit. War simulation games may look to encourage violence, but it can touch the knowledge of survival methods. In addition to the characteristic of games, and interaction is a new content protection system as a social network, contributing to changes in collective intelligence. And the virtual reality society and medical effects such as brain health are being studied under the name of digital therapy. I hope that the future of game development will include the positive effects, and that esports will continue to develop as a new play culture and a tool for learning. So I wish all the best to IEC. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Hello, nice to meet you all you guys by online conference today. It is a great honor to be here as a presenter for this conference. I'm a Professor Kang for Gwangju National University. My university is specialized in School of Education in Korea. Today I'm going to talk about distance between games and education below the title of games and educational product. Okay, these are details of my presentations as follows. The first one is main points. I'm gonna tell you about main points for my today's presentations, personally. And the second one is some evidences based on my own researches. I did research, 3 researches for these presentations. So I'm gonna share with you guys. And then finally, some suggestions as my conclusions of the presentations. There are 2 main points in my presentations. One is about proximity of games and educations, especially in considering my research result. Game is much close to the education than mathematics. The other one is about games fusion education. It must be a powerful way to introduce games into the education. How do you think about proximity of games and education? I was trying to prove the proximity degree between games and education based on these following evidences. The first evidence is proximity in chronology of humanity. The second evidence is developing machine learning to compare both proximities between games and education and math and education. Lastly, the evidence is proximity between games and the people in terms of the story of people's lives by survey. Here's R1. R1 is one of the evidences for me to measure the proximity of games and education. For that, let me ask one thing before to you guys. What is education about? What do you think about the education is? Education is regarded as a story of people's lives. That's why the education has been focusing on the people traditionally. In that point of view, if you consider how close game is to people, you can expect how far education and games are. Look at the table 1, please. it shows the proximity between games and education in the history of humanities. 5 education experts and 5 secondary teachers majoring in educational games for graduate school were given a mission to take a look over the language, tools, and technologies, play and game objectives used in the human knowledge. And then they marked scores, the proximity of education and games from 1 to 10. Results are as follows. The interesting thing is there's a clear differences in proximity from middle ages. We can guess that games were taught and played at the same time, depending on the extent to which they were related to livelihood, occupation, or economy, like monies. However, I could see the education and games are closely connected because there is a professional gamer in modern ages. And then games become a means of activities for the economy as well as a job. Like this, play and game has been around since Stone Ages. We could see that play and game very closely related to the education. This is a simple graph showing the table we looked at previously. Here's about R2. For R2, I surveyed 100 students, teachers, and parents. The survey consisted of 2 large questions and free to write down some terms, the realist fields, sectors, or keywords freely of the education. Some keywords were given as examples. I think that then made teachers to think about, and then they can imagine something, the keywords. The results are shown in the following table and the word clouds. The most relevant keywords were foods, language, humanities, and followed by morality, culture, playing games. So it's a little bit surprise for me. Playing games even not included the first layer, but anyway it included in second layer. So surprised. K-12 subjects such as math or science extra marked all low points. That also a little bit surprise for me. Because they are not really close to the education for the entire people's lives. So this is my understanding for this. They marked the degree of proximity between education and games and the degree of proximity between education and math from 1 to 10. I noted the following before the survey. From 1 to 100 years of age, we decided to divide them into kindergarten and elementary school, middle school, high school, university ages, and adult ages to check their proximity to education and games and math. These paths were used as the data sets to develop machine learning and predictions using it. I developed the machine learning that predicts the distance between education and games and the distance between education and math by machine learning using data set of the survey. I collected some data for machine learning personally and then applied the algorithms that make it a data frame. Finally, I did develop machine learning model. And then I proved the game is much close to the education than math. I want to share my machine learning a little bit more with you guys. I tried classifying using support vector machine at the beginning point because it is the most commonly used classification model in machine learning fields. The accuracy of SVM stands for support vector machine. Just now, before I mentioned about this, was 93.4%. I didn't satisfy these results. That's why I tried to improve the accuracy score with 100% by ensemble boosting algorithm. I did use a gradient boosting classifier for this. I predicted which one is more close to the education using random the two input cases. You can see the figure on the slide 10. The larger number means the close to the education. So we can tell game is more close to the education based on machine learning. Based on L1, L2, R3, I can tell as follows. Like a game is very close to the education, as I told you before. Just like this one, Please see the slide, some information by yourself. By the way, I have two following questions from the first suggestions. One question is about the reason why no considering games for K-12 education. The other question is if introduce games into the education, but how? My answer is games fusion education. Please read slide 13 in my presentations. You can catch it. We need to rethink STEAM like slide 14. We can make a fusion of context between games and the STEAM educations. It makes students to take and improve thinking power, challenging, imaginations, motivations and interest, high achievement as well. Finally, I can make a conclusion based on my two suggestions. If we introduce games into the education, and if we try to make some instructions based on game fusion education, students will get into flow running. Or students must get into flow running very fast. And then they will be never left behind. Thank you for listening.
Now, could I invite Yohan? Yohan, where are you? I'd like to introduce Yohan as the first commentator after these two wonderful presentation by Professor Kong and Professor Chung. Please, Yohan, it's your turn.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ambassador Do. Good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are. And of course, thank you so much to the IEC and in particular to you, Ambassador Do, for this invitation. It's a pleasure to share the screen with so many great people. As Ambassador Do was mentioning, my name is Yohan Noguier. I am jointly with Professor Yunus, the co-founder of Yunus Sports Hub. I'm not going to go back to who Professor Yunus is because I think that he gave a good presentation of where all this idea of social business in sport comes from. But as you know, he's been awarded the Peace Nobel Prize for creating the first institution of microcredit. And by extension of this concept, he created basically a whole global movement of businesses that are here to solve problems. So now the Yunus ecosystem is present in more than 150 countries. It's composed of more than 500 organizations. So when I hear, everything that is being said today, you may of course ask, what is the link between social business and everything that is being said today? So this link is what, as Yunus Sports Hub, we are trying to bring. Within this huge ecosystem of Professor Yunus, what we're trying to do is to promote social business in the sport and in the e-sport movement. We're trying to help sport and e-sport related organizations to implement these social business program. And finally, we try to support all of these small social business entrepreneurs in sport that are trying to make a difference on a day-by-day basis. More generally, if you think about the vision, a lot of people tend to mix up charity and social business. What we're trying to do is to break this thought that traditional business on one side and charity model on the other side are the only two options that we have. It is actually possible to do good by doing business through a tool that is social business, for example, while keeping in mind a strong economic efficiency for each dollar that we have to spend. So all of these topics that are being discussed today, whether it is about education, whether it is about kids protection, there are ways to actually make them happen without, having to create a social program on the side that is highly inefficient and that is not self-sustainable. In this perspective, esports is shaping as we speak right now. And I think that this is up to us as well to shape it in the way that we want. Avoiding unsustainable programs, because we are seeing what happens in the sport industry. A lot of these programs, when COVID kicks in and money is getting scarce, a lot of these programs disappear. So maybe to give a few examples of what that could look like, but this is just on the top of my head. But putting social business and esport together, social business is a fantastic tool to solve problems, and in the esports sector, it is no different. Professor Yunus was mentioning esport players have a fantastic power of imagination. Maybe more than most of the human beings. When they play video games, they are using their imagination to create a better world. Whether it is to beat the villain, to rescue the villagers, to get their favorite sport team to win, and they're actually, if you give them a good video game, they're able to save the world a few times a day, which would be interesting to do, in real life. But this imagination, it doesn't need to be only restricted to these video games. If we give these players the key to social business, the key to social entrepreneurship, it will help them to not only save the world in the video game, but also outside. And also, they may, out of that, get a salary, which we know is one of the topics. Not all players are well paid. So that's I think the social entrepreneurship route is something very interesting for players to explore. Another route, which was, of course, mentioned quite a lot of times, is education. Esports is one of the few, if not the only industry that is able to keep the attention span of young people for so long, 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours per day. We can, of course, use that as an education tool. I mean, as my two colleagues before have mentioned. Like in the education sector today, gamification is a big thing. So why don't we take the opposite, and have education being a big thing in the game sector? And maybe a last topic from my side. Esports can be a very effective investment tool, and let me explain this one. Based on the very economic model of these games, in a lot of these games you can buy add-on or extension or a new kit for your team or whatever for just a couple of cents or a couple of dollars online. And why can't we use a tiny part, even 1%, 2%, 3% of this revenue from the games developer, for when a game is about saving the planet, we actually use that money to actually save the planet. If it is a game about creating the best city, as I know that there are some games around that, how can we not create a fund to invest in sustainable cities? So we know that this is a booming market, and a very small percentage of online revenues can make a tremendous difference to protect the nature, to alleviate poverty, and so on and so forth. This is an industry that is starting to boom, that is going to boom in the next few years, and it is still time to shape it in a socially conscious way, not only conceptually but also technically. Meaning, we don't need to have on one side traditional business, profit maximizing business, and on the other side charity with what is left over. We need to start creating social businesses in a self-sustainable way and be very efficient with every dollar that we invest in there. It's still time to correct the flow of the industry, but also to leverage all its strengths. So let's do it together, and thank you very much.
Thank you, 요원. Thank you. 저기 앉아 계시는 우리 한국 측 그 참석자 여러분들을 위해서 저 친구가 하는데 저 옆에 침대가 보이잖아요. 이유는 파리에 사는 친구인데 지금 그 유누스 센터 IOC 것 때문에 아르헨티나로 출장을 갔어요. 그러니까 그럼 거기는 지금 새벽 2시예요. 그래가지고 자다가 일어나가지고 자기가 해야 된다 그래서 그러라 그랬더니 정신이 없어서 그러는데 Thank you. And I was just explaining to Korean audience where you are. You live in Paris, but now you are in Latin America for your mission. That's why I see your beds in behind your screen.
Sorry, yeah, there's a bed behind, yes, indeed.
That's no problem.
Well, I have no secret anymore.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to invite Dr. Kwon to be a second commentator. 저분처럼 길게 안 하실 거죠? Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening in Seoul. Nice to see you, IC members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kyung-sang Kwon, and I'm a chair of APIC. It's my great pleasure to join this Zoom meeting and virtually meet you people around the world to share valuable thoughts. In first presentation, Professor Jung Hyung-won said that this presentation imposes that education can be designed like games to be engaging and entertaining. Education must be incorporated since the development stage of game design and expand this platform into esports. Art, history, and science can be gamified into a variety of genres such as macro and micro managing, incubating, competing, exploring to amplify learning effectiveness. My commentary is there has been a notable development in the field of education that certain a number of education programs has been developed in the form of games over recent years. This gamified education industry expects to grow even more as the AR and VR related technology development further. Also, Dr. Jung said that the research on how games association with learning ability will be studied by educational technology experts, but games as educational tools are being acknowledged for their potentials. I would like to comment that the area of entertainment or so-called serious games is gaining recognition, but there is a significant lack of experts focusing on this area of research. I hope to see more scholars researching on this area. In second presentation, Professor Kang Shin-chun, Gongju University, said that developing machine learning to predict the proximity between games and education. The purpose of this machine learning development is to prove proximity between games and mathematics is closer than mathematics and education. I'd like to comment that if we can prove the proximity between games and mathematics is closer than education, I wonder how the education system will change in the future. Learning can be more efficient and engaging through games. I remember when I was still learning to use keyboard many years ago, I played a game that told me to type words falling down the screen as fast as I could. It helped me to familiarize the keyboard button and improve my hand-eye coordination. Finally, my question is how to introduce game into education. The education department around the world should be committed to investigating the use of games as a form of familiarizing knowledge and tools. The core of math courses in school is really about familiarizing equations and formulas, and history is about familiarizing the context of time. If games can show how to empower students to familiarize themselves with the knowledge, it is a done deal. In conclusion, I understand that some may say games are spiritual opium. However, I believe that games can be developed and used to generate positive educational effects. So I believe that IEC can take a lead role in this promotion and eventually allow good game to develop as one of sports games that connect people in the globe in the pandemic area as a substitute to an in-person Olympic event. Let's make the world better. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Kwon. It was very well comprehensive comments about two professors' presentation. Now, I'm going to hand it over to the moderator of the session, Elena Kundura. Elena, please allow me to explain to our Korean audience who you are. 지금부터 이제 이 세션을 이제 끝낼 분을 소개를 시킬 텐데요. 엘레나 군두라라고 저기 밑에서 두 번째 저분인데 현재로는 유로피언 유니언의 의회 의원으로서 한반도 문제를 담당을 하고 있는 국회의원입니다. 근데 그 전에는 그리스에서 관광장관을 하면서 그리스의 관광 산업을 어마어마하게 저기 증진시킨 그 여성 장관으로 모든 사람들한테 알려지고 있습니다. 그러면 제가 이제 엘레나한테 마이크를 넘기고 이걸 하고 물론 IEC co-founder라는 건 여기 계시면 다 아시니까. Okay, Elena, I've introduced about you very briefly to Korean audience, so its floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Do. I hope you hear me well, because unfortunately here in Greece, the last week we had a big disaster of fires. So the connectivity, it's a little bit weak because of the signal, that they have some technical issues. So I hope you see me, I hope you hear me. And I want to welcome you as well to this excellent event. Congratulations to for the organization. As you know, Ambassador Do and myself, we are co-chair of the IEC. We hope really this global esports sector to become very popular. We are here to drive the future generations in a constructive and evolutionary manner. And we take all these initiatives because we think that we have to follow the future. We have to follow the young people, the new generations, but with rules and protection and under really ethical codes. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very glad about all the declarations and all the speakers. They had really great points. It's really important for us to open up worldwide. And thank you so much for being here, for supporting this effort. which actually I think will be very successful.
Thank you, Elena. Then 혹시 질문 있으십니까? Do you have any questions to the professors? If not, we spent such a long time together. So, and I just have to tell you, this was a challenge to come up with this kind of event during the coronavirus pandemic. It was, it was really, we had to go through, and we never thought we'll make it today. We didn't expect to make it today, but we are here. I'm so glad we are here. So what I'd like to suggest is if we don't have any questions further among members of organizing committee and members of our board, is there any question about two professors? If not, we'll go into our meeting. Would that be okay? Dr. Rifai, would that be okay? Should we do that? Mario?
That's fine.
That's fine?
That's fine.
Mario Hardy, how about you? Is it okay? Okay, very good. 그러면요, 여기서 이 행사는 끝내고 저희는 이사회를 여기서 하겠습니다. 그러니까는 뭐 이사회 우리 아무 비밀도 없으니까 앉아 계셔서 들으셔도 좋고 다른 일정이 있으면은 또 가셔도 좋습니다. 너무 감사합니다. 네, 감사합니다. 이것으로 끝내겠습니다. 네. Okay, then now I'm going to hand over microphone to Elena again. So let's have our board meeting. Okay? Elena, are you on?
Thank you. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. I hear you.
Okay, because the connectivity is a
We
little
can
bit weak.
hear you, Elena.